Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.
You have failed this city.
Wow. I know, right? Hey! Quit messing around!
I'm not messing around. I'm doing important stuff.
Welcome. A man. It's you the right. What's the difference between you and me?
I'm not wearing hockey pads.
But that is being human.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Watchtower. I'm a bit late this week. Well, it's a new week, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm here. Here I am. I apologize. Life gets the better of us sometimes. I understand. I hope you all understand, but I'm here. And it's kind of good that it kind of happened this way. The reason why I say that is because, well, a lot of weird stuff came up after the Peacemaker finale, and I want to address a lot of that. So we will talk about that stuff, as well as the Peacemaker finale and the season as a whole, because I want to talk about how good or bad Peacemaker season 2 actually was and where it could lead in the grand scheme of things, as well as officially give away the digital code for Superman. And honestly, there weren't many people who entered in for it. I'm going to be honest, I only saw 2 people actually attempt for it a number of times, but those 2 people did enter in for it. So I will be giving that away. That'll be the first. This will be the first of quite a few giveaways that I do over the next few months, because I want to start giving back to the community, giving back to all of you. And remember, this was not anything from YouTube. This was all me, nothing to do with YouTube. So keep that in mind. But let's see who's here right now. We got Otito in here, says, hello, DC fans. How's it going? Donovan's in here, says, the fact that many are believing Cosmic Book News tells me everything about them. Yes, very much so. Donovan says, especially Josh Den of Nerds is believing this for all his scoops. Yeah, well, people sometimes will believe whatever fits their narrative, and that's a problem. That is a major problem in today's world. They see something, they hear something that fits their specific narrative, and instead of using their own comprehension and really thinking about it and understanding what they're looking at and looking at the bigger picture, they just take what it says at base value and run with it because it fits their narrative. So, okay. So, Otito says Peacemaker season 2 was good, but underwhelming. I can see why people say that. I can legitimately sit there and say, look, if you think it was underwhelming, I understand that. I can understand why you would think it's underwhelming. But we'll get into the Peacemaker season 2 in a little bit. I want to talk about, well, the first thing that I want to talk about, which is the Cosmic Book News stuff. So the first one I want to talk about was actually the second story that they put out this weekend. We'll talk about the first one in a second here. But it's so ridiculous. Okay. So Cosmic Book News, I want to remind everybody here. Okay. I want to remind you all, Cosmic Book News is not a legitimate source of information. They are not a legitimate, really anything. They have never really been accurate on quote unquote scoops. They've never been accurate on, or not accurate, but first on reporting things. Like they're basically a blog that re-reports information that is already out there. That's all they are. But They also have a major bias against the current DCU slate and a lot of other things. So here we go. So they posted this 21 hours ago. They say, I'm currently at New York Comic Con following the huge disappointment of James Gunn's Peacemaker Season 2 and finale. I reached out to my insiders about the state of the DCU at Warner Brothers. Now, do they have insiders? Probably not. But hey, well, what can I say? I can't sit here and say that they do or don't for sure. But I'm going to say they probably don't. Anyways, they say more to come, but I'm told that Zack Snyder wants to return to DC at some point and do an adaptation of the Batman comic, The Dark Knight Returns, by legendary Frank Miller and Klaus Janson. Regarding any chance Snyder will return to his DCEU Justice League movies, I'm told that ship has sailed and that everybody has moved on. Okay, so the reason why I wanted to talk about this one first is because this is not new information. This is not something that is like unknown. Zack Snyder talked about this in an article with the Hollywood Reporter. I believe it was Hollywood Reporter like a year and a half ago. They sat down and had a talk with him, and they asked him about returning to DC, and he said, I would return to DC for The Dark Knight Returns. Like that he has stated that. Zack Snyder has stated that publicly. So this isn't insider information. This isn't information that Cosmic Book News went and sought out and found because nobody else could get it. No, this is information that, well, has been known. This is information that you can go and pretty much find on your own. This is the kind of stuff that, I sit there and I find hilarious. I find it hilarious that people will sit there and try and, make up these whole ideas like, oh, let's take old information and make it as new and act like we know what we're talking about. No, and that was the whole idea behind this article here, or not article, this information, this news. Because once you see the other bit that they shared first, the other bit that they talked about trying to get people on board with them, you're going to understand why they share this. Because this is all about them trying to legitimize themselves. Okay, so moving on to the big thing that they really started to talk about, which, like I said, was the big news. With Superman reportedly bombing financially, with Peacemaker Season 2 flopping with fans, I reached out to my insiders about the state of DCU under James Gunn. The short of it is that James Gunn will be out as the head of DCU with the WBD sale. I'm told if David Ellison of Skydance Paramount buys Warner Brothers Discovery, that Mike DeLuca will be in charge of DC and do a completely new start. All right. First off, let's look at things from a not so idiotic point of view. First off, Superman was not bombing. It was not a bomb. It did not bomb. Superman did not bomb. Superman was a success, a huge success. In 2025, Superman was a huge success. But Robert, what's that? It lost $40 million. No, it did not lose $40 million. It did not. All right, so put that to the back burner. But Slav, that Forbes article, the speculative piece, the piece that specifically states that we don't know how much money this movie made. Like it states that in the article that states in the headline, let's see how much this movie made. And then the article doesn't even say how much it made or lost. Oh, that article? That's the one you're talking about? Because that's the thing. People, like I said a little bit ago, they want to take these narratives and run with them if they fit what they're trying to prove. That's why you have not heard me specifically talk about that Variety article from September that sat there and said, our sources say that this movie made $125 million. I may have mentioned it, but I haven't sat there and treated it as gospel. I've said, hey, it's saying that it made this much. It's possible. It's possible. But until we get the real information, there's no knowing. That's why I talk about box office numbers. Talking about profit for movies is nearly impossible because unless the theater or the studios, unless the studios come out and say this movie made X amount of profit, we never know. It's all speculation. It's all us trying to figure out the numbers. Well, if the theaters take this much and the marketing was this much, which we never know truly what the marketing was, if the tax incentives were this when they shot here in Svalbard or here in Ohio or here this much, and we don't know all the intricacies of what the production was. So trying to figure out the profit is nearly impossible for any movie. You could go back through me. I've been doing podcasting since 2016. I talk about box office because that is a good way, a good gauge to understand how successful a movie is. Okay. I understand you want to sit there and talk about, well, if a movie isn't profitable, it's a flop. I get that. And there's instances where you can sit there and say, obviously this movie is a flop because it made $200 million and the budget was $150 million. Well, yeah, that's obviously a flop because the production plus the marketing plus everything else, yeah, that ends up being a flop. I get that. Those are easy things to see as a flop. But movies that cost $200 million and then make over $600 million, it's hard to tell if those end up being a flop, if they made a profit, if they didn't make a profit, because of how big of a jump between the box office and the budgets were. So people need to calm down a little bit on that aspect. It is what it is. So that's number one. Superman did not bomb financially. Not to mention that it was a huge critic and audience darling. People love the movie. Peacemaker season 2 flopping with fans. I haven't seen Peacemaker season 2 flopping with fans. I even see the audience enjoying it. Even people who aren't big fans have enjoyed it. Your typical DCU haters, your typical gun haters don't like it, but I'm not seeing this perceived flopping or hate with Peacemaker season 2. Did some people think the finale disappointed? Sure. But not every season, not every show, pleases everyone. Even the biggest shows have disappointing finales for seasons. I pointed this out. People want to sit there and talk about, oh, this show never even charted on the Nielsen charts. Oh, okay. There's been some big shows that in the first few seasons of it never charted, but still were big and popular shows even in their first couple seasons. The morning show, huge show on Apple TV. People love it. The first 2 seasons never charted on the Nielsen charts, not to mention that it won awards. I'm not saying Peacemaker is going to win awards, but it never charted. What else? Severance. The first 2 seasons, the first season and a half of Severance never charted. Never charted. It wasn't until halfway through the second season did Severance start to chart. All right? There's other shows. I can't think of what was it like? I can't think right now. But there's other shows that have done the same. Not every show charts, because if you think about it, if they went off that metric, if it was like, hey, every show has to chart to be successful, then you would only have like 5 to 10 shows on TV at any given time. Like, not every show has to chart to be successful. So this mindset that shows have to chart to be successful is asinine and ridiculous. So there's that. Okay. we don't know, like, financially, when it comes to streaming stuff, you can never figure out financially what's successful, what's not financially wise. So we can't talk about that. So moving on, he says he reached out and his insiders told him that James Gunn will be gone from the DCU once the sale happens. First off, I don't know if you heard the news today, but apparently Skydance Paramount threw a bid towards Warner Brothers. My guess is it was kind of like a preliminary bid, something to just kind of set the wheels in motion, just to see, like, hey, let's throw out a bid and let's get the ball rolling to see where things are at. But they denied it. Warner Brothers Discovery apparently said, nope, we nixed that. We don't want that. That's not a deal. We don't accept it. Okay. People are trying to say David Ellison, the guy who runs Paramount Skydance now, Skydance Paramount, whatever it's called, is going to oust James Gunn because two projects have been massive, quote unquote, massive failures that they obviously have not been massive failures. Now, first off, David Ellison does not see, like, he sees what we see right now. Keep that in mind. Like, from his standpoint, he only sees what we see. He's not at the studio seeing the books, seeing the actual numbers. So when he gets in there, he could see the actual numbers, and maybe they're better, maybe they're worse. We don't know. But he could also get in there and he could have a conversation with James Gunn and Peter Safran, and he could be blown away and say, wow, let's let you finish off your next 6 years, 8 years, whatever it ends up being. Let's let you finish off your run. If it does well, we continue going forward. If not, we start something new. Again, we don't know what Ellison is going to want to do. So to sit there and say, oh, we're hearing that James Gunn is out, is just completely asinine. It's ridiculous. You don't know what's in the mind of a studio head. You really think that people are going to sit there and talk about DC Studios specifically when they're talking about a major takeover? I'm not going to sit there and say that DC Studios isn't like an important piece of that, because it is. You know, that IP is huge. It's going to be worth, billions of dollars in the long run. But when they're sitting there talking about, let's buy Warner Brothers Discovery, DC is this little part of it. There's so much more part of Warner Brothers Discovery that they're not sitting there saying, oh, if we get Warner Brothers Discovery, James Gunn's out, this is out. Like, they're not talking about that. They're like, okay, we got to worry about what can we do to get this? Because we want this IP. So let's worry about getting this. And then once they get it, then that's when they're going to start talking about and figuring out, hey, who do we want to keep? Who do we not want to keep? And things like that. So at this point, people saying they have information that people are going to be ousted and fired and things like that is absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. It's dumb. It is absolutely dumb. Now, as I always say, if it comes down to it, if at some point James Gunn is no longer running DC Studios and they get somebody else in there running DC Studios, guess what? I'm going to support that person as well. I will support that person and I will hope for the best, because it's about the franchise. It's about the IP. It's about the excitement about getting more content. I'll be disappointed that we have to go through another reboot. I'll be pissed off about that. But when all is said and done, I will be excited that that we're getting DC stuff. I'm sorry, I clicked something. That we'll be getting DC stuff. That's what I'll be excited about. So, yeah. Let's see here. So, with all that said, Cosmic Book News, excuse me, is not a legitimate source. They push a mix of rumors, speculation, hot takes. They are not pushing verified reporting at all. They've had multiple big scoops that have been proven false. Specifically, the one that they tried to push that Ezra Miller was going to be recast as the Flash in the Flash movie. Yeah, that was a thing. So just remember, if you see a story come from Cosmic Book News and nowhere else, it's not real. It probably isn't. It's probably definitely not real. So remember, use real sources, Variety, Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, that kind of thing. Those are your real outlets to get information. Excuse me, man. Still trying to get over this sickness. But use those places specifically. Places like Cosmic Book News are not your outlet to get scoops or information. Scoops, I keep telling you, scoops are just, they're cancer. They're cancer. They take you down a road that's just going to get you angry and screw everything up, and it's just not worth it. It's not worth it at all. But guys, let me know your thoughts about these two things in the comments below. All right. So what are you guys saying over here? Let's see. Oh boy, lots of things. No, Ben was in here, says this something he said on Dave the Film Junkie also, where he said about the Dark Knight Rises third is not new, or the Dark Knight Returns third is no, yeah, I mean it's not news. It's it's so old. Hunter Iggy, did you see about James Gunn out if Paramount Plus? Just talked about it. Critic Chris, hey, what's going on? Yep, early stream today because I wanted to get it done. Donovan says the Forbes shit was all speculative. It was never confirmed. Correct. Critic Chris, Man of Steel was a success but did not meet expectation money-wise. It's the same with Superman. It was not a flop. Correct. Donovan says, guys, my source was, I made it up. Sure was. Critic Chris, there hasn't been a series or show that I enjoyed every single episode and or finale. Yeah, I mean, it's almost impossible to do that. Douglas Fryer, what's important is a show increases its viewership from the previous season, and Peacemaker did that. Yes, it did. Critic Chris, it's all about getting views for their YouTube channels by hating on James Gunn. Donovan says, even Den of Nerds is saying that David has been buying WB stock and is prepping a hostile takeover. What a load of bullshit. Critic Chris says, I read Cosmic Book News isn't a reliable source. They are not a reliable source in the slightest. Not at all. All right, let me see here if I can get this to work because I'm trying to do the giveaway and the randomizer generator is not working for me. Hold on. Let's see if this works here. There we go. So, all right. Got that. Okay. So it doesn't look like he's in here. Now, if you don't remember, I did start a giveaway last week to enter to get a digital copy of Superman. This was the way that you could have entered in. You had to go into any of my videos over the last week, which I made sure I had a video every single day, at least one video post every single day this week, which I did. And on that video, all you had to do was post a comment and put the little Superman guy or little superhero guy on the comment. If you didn't put the superhero guy, guys, it was in the rules. If you didn't put the superhero guy, you unfortunately did not get a chance to get an entry into this here. So I went ahead and did the randomized picker test thingy here. I put all the names in, and the winner of the Superman digital code is, oh, hit the wrong button. There it is. Purple guy. Purple guy. So I will post that in. I will post that in the community tab. That way he sees it, and I'll explain how to reach out to me to get that code. So congratulations on that, and we will do more with giveaways down the line. All right. Hunter Iggy says, "Did you see Angry Badger videos from yesterday?" I did not. I was pretty busy yesterday. I didn't have time to watch any videos yesterday. Nathaniel, what's up, Slav? What's going on, Nathaniel? How's it going? Nathaniel said, "I enjoy season 2, but it felt different." Yes, yeah, and that's okay. I mean, it's allowed to feel different. It's allowed to feel different. I enjoyed it though. All right. Next story, real quick here. Where'd it go? There it is. Warner Brothers has rejected Paramount's first bid to buy the company. So this is coming from Bloomberg. It says Warner Brothers is said to rebuff. Come on, stupid pop-ups. Oh, I guess I can't look at it because I don't have the information. Okay. Well, they did not. I read it earlier. I was on my phone. I was able to read it. Anyways, they did not accept the first bid. So what that means is, like I said a little bit ago, this is their first bid. I think this bid here specifically is just them saying, "Hey, let's test the waters. This is going to be our first bid. Are we even close? Like, how far are we?" I think that's kind of what this is. I think what's going to happen is they're going to say no. Paramount's going to go take a look at their, what they got, and then go back at it. And it's what this will do. It's going to be a back and forth, probably a couple months. I said this, like a month or so ago. I really don't expect a deal to be agreed upon until probably the end of 2025. And that's if it's Paramount and it's Skydance Paramount. I could see another company swoop in and possibly jump in and, take it, from under them. It's possible. I don't think it's going to be Netflix. I do think that another company could come in and get in the bidding war, possibly. But we'll see. I really think it's a bad idea. I say this all the time. I don't want to see any more mergers. I just don't want to see these companies come together because it's going to lessen the amount of products that we get put out. It's going to take away a lot of the just outlets for content. Like, you take a look at what happened when 20th Century Fox got bought out by Disney. 20th Century Studios puts out far less content than it used to under Fox. That's the problem. We're going to have less content, less competition, and it's just not going to be as good for the consumer. So that's a concern. That's definitely a concern. But we'll see. I saw somebody say on Twitter, and maybe it's on this here. Yeah, it's this one here. It goes, "Also, for everyone saying they would rather have someone else over Paramount, let me tell you right now, Paramount is actually doing very good things, especially having Taylor Sheridan as the writer for shows. If we got a movie by Taylor Sheridan writing with the script with DC, it would be one of the best DC films." First off, I don't think Taylor Sheridan wants to write a DC script. I could be wrong. But has anybody ever seen Taylor Sheridan talk about things? Like, I don't think he would be a DC type of guy. But again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But, we've seen some pretty crazy people, write some scripts for DC in the past. And who would have thought that David Ayer would have done one? Who would have thought that Todd Phillips would have done one? Like, you never know, right? You never know. Okay. Anyway, moving on to the next thing here. James Gunn talks about Lanterns and Supergirl, saying there will be songs in both those things. People were very interested to know if James Gunn's habit of putting music in his projects is going to continue. Let's not forget, though, that Lanterns is not directed by him. Lanterns is not written by him. Supergirl, not directed or written by him. He's a producer. He's standing in the background. Yes, there's going to be songs. Yes, there's going to be music in those in some form or fashion, I'm sure. But it's not going to be his type of needle drop. It's not going to be his type of music that he typically does. So I think people can relax in a way and okay, it'll be fine. I think it'll be fine. I think people need to relax. I don't think it's going to be what people think, because I know some people are freaking out about it. But I think it's just going to be, hey, Craig Gillespie, he wants to put some music in Supergirl. That's fine. Who I don't know who the directors of Lanterns are, but whoever the directors are for Lanterns, if they feel like music fits for what they're doing, or however they wrote those episodes, music fits, then it's going to go in there. I don't think it's going to be like the needle drops for James Gunn. But speaking of Supergirl, he does say Supergirl especially is a space adventure. It's like Guardians. Now, I think people also took this a little too on the nose when it comes to what he said there. I don't think it's going to be like Guardians in the way of like Marvelization, or how Guardians, like, I don't think it's going to be Guardians of the Galaxy in DC. I just think he's making like the cosmic aspect of it. Like it's a cosmic space adventure like Guardians was. Yes, it's going to have that feel of being in space and being this adventure out in space. I think that's what he's talking about. I could be wrong. But that's how I take it. So I don't know. Let me know your thoughts about these two things, because I think it is really, really interesting. Okay. So I do have a couple more things that do relate to Peacemaker and the world moving forward in the DCU. But before we do that, I do want to discuss Peacemaker Season 2, Episode 8. So what I want to do, look, it's spoilers. So if you haven't seen the final episode of Peacemaker, you may want to click off, because we're going to talk Peacemaker, and then I'm going to talk about the ramifications of the finale, on where it could lead for the DCU, as well as what it could mean for Peacemaker, 11th Street Kids, and everything like that. So I want to talk about that. So start putting your comments in the comments section for Peacemaker Season 2, Episode 8, or just Season 2 as a whole. So yeah, I went into Peacemaker. Look, we all went into Peacemaker, the Peacemaker finale for Season 2, expecting it to have something huge, have something bold, have something shocking. I think that's what everybody went into. Did James Gunn oversell Episode 8? I think yes and no. When we look at the comments that he was making prior to the episodes coming out, he kept mentioning that Episode 6 and Episode 8 were the two favorites that he ever made for Peacemaker, and two of his favorite of anything that he ever created. And people took that as like, holy crap, these have to be amazing. He talked about how Episode 6, 7, and 8 had some huge reveals and ideas for the DCU at large. He talked about early on how there was, towards the end of the season, very key word there, he said towards the end of the season, a big cameo or a reveal or something like that, like a big cameo towards the end of the season, which ended up being Lex. But I think people really took what he was saying and made it larger for themselves than what it was for him. Now, should he have chosen his words better? Yeah, probably. That doesn't mean that the episode wasn't great, because the episode, I feel, was fantastic. I think it was. I think it was absolutely great. And there is a part of that episode where I sat there and I was like, you know, this could have been done better. I'm not happy with how they did this part of the episode. But overall, for me, I will say, like, I came out of that finale, and I was kind of like, really? This is it? Like, this is where it ends? That's all? And that to me was a little disappointing. So we'll get in. So we know it starts off, Chris Peacemaker, he's in jail. Didn't get sent to Belle Reve. He's just in jail. And uh with him in jail, he's like, I'm the angel of death, because people want to come visit him. He's like, no, I don't want to be visited by anybody. All right, whatever. We see everybody basically coming together, trying to figure out what their next move is. So we're trying to see all that. I'm going to get to the boat stuff in a second. I know that's what starts the episode. I'm going to get to that. We see all, they're trying to figure out what to do. What's our next move and everything like that. We see them going through the portals. We see them doing all this stuff. We see that all that stuff's kind of fun. We see specifically Rick Flag is continually work with Lex Luthor, which is a big problem. He should not be doing that. He's really become something different than what we thought he was in Creature Commandos. So we got that going. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the basis of this whole episode right there. So we got that. Now, the beginning of the episode starts with a flashback where we start to see the beginning aspects of what happened on the boat, with Peacemaker and Harcourt at a Big Belly Burger, and they're having a moment there. They're talking, they're kind of out just having some fun. And then they make their way. They're walking on a boardwalk. They see a boat. They see a band playing on this boat. Peacemaker's like, I want to take you. Come on, we got to go. You have to come with me. It's my favorite band or something like that. So, it cuts there. And then later on in the episode, we see the rest of that whole scene where they actually go onto the boat and they're just having a good time, dancing to the music, dancing to it. And Peacemaker and Harcourt actually kiss right there. But Harcourt gets scared and runs off because she felt something. Like, she truly felt something for Peacemaker there. Now, I loved that aspect of it. I loved, I think for a lot of people, everybody thought it was going to be that they had sex on on the boat or on a boat or something like that. That it was just a kiss. That it wasn't just a kiss, but it was more. They shared this moment leading up to a kiss. They shared a moment of just freeing themselves and being together. Like, that was the beauty of that moment. Harcourt let herself loose for the first time, probably ever, around Peacemaker there. And she allowed herself to be vulnerable for the first time, maybe ever, there. So I think that is what was, so beautiful about that moment. So, again, back with everybody else, they're going through the portals. The portal stuff was fun, specifically the little Candyland moment with the little imps. That was hilarious. It was funny. Come on, people. I know people want to get so angry at James Gunn for having this ridiculous and raunchy humor, but that's who James Gunn is. If after nearly 20 years or more of James Gunn, if you're not used to or understanding who James Gunn is as a filmmaker and writer, if you can't understand that, then why, like, you're yelling at a wall whenever you complain about him, because this is who he is. And the amazing thing is he can also do things like Superman. So he can do things like Superman where he doesn't get into that raunchy and ridiculous crude humor like he does with Peacemaker. But he likes to do the Peacemaker stuff. That's who he is. Like, people don't complain when you have other filmmakers who are similar to this or have their shticks. Like, there's other filmmakers who have shticks. Like, look at Quentin Tarantino. He has his shticks. He has his nobody complains that he does the same type of thing over and over and over again. Christopher Nolan, he does the same thing almost over and over and over again. Nobody complains. But because it's James Gunn, for some reason, they find, oh, it's James Gunn. They don't like James Gunn because it's not Zack Snyder. That's the problem. And that's all it is. But the whole bit here was just hilarious. Like, I loved it. It was fun. But it was also serious because you're seeing like all these people go in and they're dying and coming out and just death and despair and just craziness going on, while Rick Flag and all the cohorts of Lex Luthor's gang are just sitting there laughing and having a good time. And you're trying to figure out, like, what are they doing? And then you find out, like, you find out that they're trying to find a prison. They want to create a prison for metahumans. And that to me was like, okay, Lex is still on this whole prison idea from Superman. Kind of makes sense. I mean, why change that aspect? He created a prison before. Why not create a prison again? So he continues doing that, and they find another prison. But it makes sense that they find a planet, because now they have this ability to find different planets, different dimensions. And they find Salvation. And they call it Salvation because they want to make it sound appealing, but we know in the comics what it actually means, from the comics what it means. But from this standpoint, it's like, okay, we throw metahumans in there to get rid of them. It's like, okay, yeah, this is going to set up something much larger for the DCU, much more interesting for the DCU. I kind of like that. I like that idea. So that's kind of the main story that happens here. The depression they showed on Eagly while Peacemaker was in prison, that was kind of sad, wasn't it? I thought it was sad. But there wasn't much Eagly in this episode. Although I do like that they kind of showed this relationship between Eagly and Economos. So that's kind of nice to see that at least Eagly will have somebody now that Peacemaker's gone. So that's good. What else happens in this episode? Checkmate. Yes. So, once they finally, his Peacemaker gets out of prison or out of jail. He gets out of jail. And then he just goes on the run. And they try to find him. They have to go and find him, and they confront him and like, look, it's not you that causes all this. When you yourself actually trust yourself, when you trust yourself and don't listen to others, great things happen. But it's when you listen to others and you don't trust yourself, that's when the bad things happen. And it finally starts to click for him, like, yeah, maybe they're right. And it's what brings them together again, brings him back. And because of that, they all start to realize, hey, maybe there's something we could do. Sasha Bordeaux kind of is like, look, this is what's going on. They're making a prison for this. I don't want to do this anymore. I think we need to do something else. And that's when they finally all come together and they decide to pull everything together. They use the blood money that Adrian has, and they create Checkmate, which, if you saw my video that I posted yesterday, is a really, really cool organization from the comics. It's been around since the 80s in the comics. That's like a spy espionage type of thing. And yeah, I think it's going to be really cool for the DCU. I do. So they create Checkmate for the DCU. You get Flurry in there. You get Judo Master, Adebayo, Economos, Adrian, Bordeaux, Harcourt, and Peacemaker would be there if he wasn't captured and then thrown into Salvation. But he was thrown into Salvation at the very end of the episode by Rick Flag, who's pretty much been completely corrupted by Lex Luthor. But his anger and rage towards Peacemaker is still there for killing his son. And he throws him into Salvation to be kind of like the test subject, the guinea pig for this prison. And as he gets thrown in there, you start to hear some growls and screams of beasts from within somewhere. So we'll maybe at some point see what it is. So that's kind of the episode. Now, what does this mean moving forward? Because for me, I sat there and I watched this episode and was like, "Oh, no cameo," but we didn't need a cameo. There just was no need for a cameo. What was the part that bothered me the most was probably the creation of Checkmate. Checkmate to me, that whole aspect of this episode was very rushed because it was like Peacemaker asked Harcourt at one point, finally, he just wanted the answer. Like, did it mean anything to you? Talking about the kiss on the boat. And she finally admits to him, yes, it meant everything to me. So he goes into the motel to gather all his stuff. But when he goes in there, he starts dancing around, getting all excited, jumping up and down. And then at that point, Foxy Shazam starts playing Oh Lord. And it's a montage of the 11th Street kids coming together and creating Checkmate. That I didn't like. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the Foxy Shazam part because that's a lot of fun. Like, it's a great song, a lot of fun. Excuse me. But it was like this montage of them dancing on the boat, them creating Checkmate, they're doing this, they're doing like it just didn't work for me. Like, I felt like that whole aspect should have been drawn out. It should have been longer to create Checkmate. Like, that almost should have been an episode in itself, creating Checkmate. But to me, that was the weakest part of this episode, which is not bad because the episode as a whole was exactly what this season has been the entire time. It has been a character-driven story, one with a lot of heart, a lot of soul. And that's exactly what this episode was. And to leave Peacemaker where he is at the very end of this episode makes so much sense because he's finally he's come to this realization and he's come to peace with himself of who he is and how he will be the rest of his life, and he's ready to move forward, but now he can't. And again, it's just, I see Marvin J in here say, this is mid-storytelling. Are you saying the way I was telling it or the actual Peacemaker? Because the way I was telling it, absolutely. But the way it was done is not mid-storytelling. It's done very well. The thing is, there is the expectation that people have. People want things immediately. I talk about this all the time. We're in this day and age where people want. When James Gunn talked about this episode sets up the DCU moving forward, sets up Man of Tomorrow, people were expecting Brainiac showing up, or the villain, the main villain of Man of Tomorrow popping up, or, excuse me, a main reveal of what exactly is going to happen in the next project. That's not necessarily what that means. The whole idea of this episode was, here's salvation, okay? That's going to play a major part in what's happening moving forward. The relationship between Rick Flag and Lex Luthor. Yeah, what Argus is doing with Lex Luthor is going to play a major role in the next film and the DCU moving forward. Like, how people don't understand rounding up metahumans in a world that is full of metahumans and putting them into a other dimensional prison. How that's not a huge reveal for the future of this franchise, of this DCU. That's pretty big. And it's exciting. And it's interesting. It's fun to think about. It's different than what we've ever seen before. So for me, I sat back after the episode ended. I go, oh man, that's wild. This is going to be wild. Superman's not going to like this. He's going to be pissed. The Justice Gang's not going to like this. They're going to be pissed. Like, that's what I'm thinking. I'm not sitting there thinking, oh man, this is terrible storytelling because there's no Brainiac, there's no Mongol, there's no Dark, like blah, blah, blah. No, I'm not thinking about what I didn't get. I'm thinking about what we did get and what it could lead to. I'm not thinking about this mindset of, I want what I want right now. I'm thinking about what this could lead to, because that's good storytelling, of sitting there wondering what's next, what's next, what's next. That's good storytelling. Always wondering what's next. Peacemaker Season 2, from start to finish, was a character-driven, heartfelt story. That's what it was from start to finish. And they did a hell of a job setting up what's next for the DCU. If you were unable to get excited about that, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Your expectations were too high. Your expectations were in the wrong place. That's not James Gunn's fault. That's not Peacemaker's fault. It's not Superman's fault. That's you putting your expectations somewhere that nobody ever told you to put them. And for me, I sit there and say, look, I like what I see. I like where this could be going. Will the execution pay off? I hope so. I hope the execution pays off. But I did not expect this, so that makes me more excited. I'm excited because I didn't expect it. If it would have just been Brainiac showing up, I would have been like, well, that's cool, but I expected it. If it would have been, Darkseid popping up, like, well, that's unexpected, but where the hell does this fit in? That's the thing. This fits with what the story was, and it was unexpected, and it's curious to what's next. Add to that the checkmate stuff, which is real exciting, because you're expanding the universe at that point to the side and able to push it forward. I just don't see why people, they have this whole idea that everything has to be revealed one way or another like this. Like, we need to know everything right now. If it's not that way, it sucks. I don't know. Again, was the finale the greatest finale ever? No, it was not. Like I said, there were some issues with it. I did not like the way that they set up Checkmate. But it still fit the entirety, the narrative, everything about it fit how the entire season went. So that's my opinion. What did you guys think of Peacemaker Season 2 and the finale specifically of Season 2? Love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. All right, let's see. We got Critic Chris says, is Gunn not wanting to continue Peacemaker after Season 2 within the DCU? It sounded like Gunn didn't plan to continue the show and focused on other content. Well, he has stated that he doesn't currently have any plans for a Season 3. However, I think that's because of the way it ended. If you see the way it ended, Peacemaker is stuck on Salvation. The rest of the team has created Checkmate, and he's focusing on some other projects right now. So, if you ask me, could there be a Peacemaker Season 3 at some point? Sure. But I think his plan is to complete this story that is currently going on, which could include a Checkmate series, Man of Tomorrow, and whatever else is coming down the pipeline. So, personally, does that mean we don't get a Peacemaker Season 3? No. But would I say that it's definitely going to happen? No, I don't think it necessarily has to happen, because I think we'll see Peacemaker pop up down the line as well. Randy O'Donnell says, you deny anything that does not fit your narrative. Two sides of the same coin. You deny anything that does not fit your narrative. It says, please, Superman lost money in its theatrical run. Ultimately, it will likely end up in the black due to other revenue streams. The article clearly states that. We're talking about that. We're not talking about that right now. We're talking about Peacemaker. But regardless, look, I've stated this. I'll talk about this real quick. Is it possible that Superman lost money at the box office? Yes. But is it possible that it made $100 million at the box office? Yes. Why is it possible that it's one or the other? Because we don't have all the information. The Forbes article is a speculative piece. It doesn't have all the information. It uses data that is not completely accurate. It uses data that they don't have all the information from. Just like the Variety article from September says, hey, we heard from a source that it made $125 million, but Warner Brothers did not want to comment. That's not an accurate take. That's why I never sat there and said, this is an accurate take, that we have to take this by gospel. That's why I'm not saying the Forbes article is accurate or inaccurate. It's possible it lost 40 million. It's also possible it made 100 million. We don't know. So when you look at it properly like that, with an open mind, you need to understand that, yes, it may have lost 40 million. It may have made 100 million. It may have made less. It may have lost less. Either way, it's possible. But yes, you're right. If it lost 40 million, it's going to make that up. It's going to be in the black when all is said and done. Therefore, in the studio's eyes, it's not a flop. Therefore, in the studio's eyes, they're fine with continuing it. But if it made $100 million or if it made $80 million, what does it matter? People are freaking out for no reason. So that's all I'm going to say about that. There you go, Randy. All right. Critic Chris says, seems like people want these things rushed out, having history repeat itself. Yeah, people want, it's not that they want things rushed out. They just want to know right now. They want to know exactly what's happening at that point in time, right then and there. So they want to know, like, Man of Tomorrow is coming out in 2027. They want to know everything, boom, right then and there. And I also think it hurts. Look, you know me, I love speculation. I love sitting there thinking, like, speculating on who the villain might be or what the story might be or what this might be. I love the speculation. But I'm also somebody who understands that when I speculate and think about this kind of stuff, to not get too attached to my own ideas, because I know that it's probably not going to be that. I don't think everybody's like that. I think a lot of people sit there and they start to speculate and they go, it's Brainiac. It's got to be Brainiac. 100% Brainiac. It's Brainiac. It's Brainiac. It's Brainiac. It's not Brainiac. Well, this is stupid. Well, James Gunn's a hack. It's just dumb. And when they do that kind of stuff, that is the problem. That's where the problem is. So that's just where I think it goes. Honestly. Whoops. Let's see. Happy 3D Model says, I like the finale, not like most people. Yeah, you're right. A lot of people didn't like it. It is what it is. The Disney guy says, yeah, I don't want cameos for the sake of cameo. And neither does James Gunn. That's the thing. Neither does he. The Disney guy says, the checkmate thing in a Salvation Run reveal is awesome, to be honest. It really is. Jalen says, damn, I'm late. It's okay, Jalen. It's okay. Chris says, I remember Brainiac returning like he did in JLU. I was trying to figure out how Lex was, though, as I suspected Brainiac, but wasn't sure. Moments like that are great. Jalen says, I'll say this. Anyone treating this finale like a good reason for James Gunn to be fired is either dumb or treating this like it's a football team where you can easily fire a head coach, but it's not. Yeah. Happy 3D Model says, I'm excited where the DCU is going after season 2 of Peacemaker, as am I. Single Dad Gamer, do we think Peacemaker ending will lead to gun fatigue? If the ball was dropped on this, does it lead to thinking another ball will be dropped? Again, I understand why some people were not overly happy with the finale of Peacemaker. I don't think it ruins the entire season, though, of Peacemaker Season 2. Is it gun fatigue? Like, I don't think there's really gun fatigue. I saw a video. I'm trying to decide whether I want to actually do a video based on that video. But they were talking about how James Gunn has failed every project since leaving Marvel, which I completely disagree with. And, you know, his Superman was great. It's done really well. Peacemaker, the first Peacemaker season was fantastic. The second one was great. I don't think there's any kind of fatigue. I do believe that there's a lot of hesitation with superhero content still to this day. I mean, you take a look at what happened just this year when it comes to Fantastic Four, Captain America, Thunderbolts, even Superman to an extent. People just aren't going to see those things. So, is it Gunn? No. Excuse me. I think that we will see the DCU build. Supergirl's going to be an interesting one next year. I do think it will be interesting to see how that plays out, because I don't agree that that was the best project to be the second project, because I feel like it should have been like a Batman, or maybe even a Wonder Woman, or something like a bigger character. I'm not saying that Supergirl isn't a big character. I just don't think that she is the type of character that you do a second movie in a franchise with. But we'll see how that goes. But again, James Gunn, now we're now looking at what, 4 projects coming up? 4 projects that James Gunn hasn't written or directed that are coming up. So I think these next few projects, it's going to be interesting to see how they how they work, because if they don't work, that is when I will personally start to get a little worried about the DCU. So if they all don't work, then it's going to be like, okay, what's going on? But I think for James Gunn, his first 3 projects, Creature Commandos, Peacemaker, Superman, I think they've all worked personally. I think when it comes to critical and audience reception, I think that they've done very well. Financially, Superman did well. So we're good there. I think we're good. We have a good basis for the DCU. I think now moving forward, we got to see where it goes after that. That's just what I think. And like I said, I think we got to see outside of James Gunn. We got to see what happens outside of him, because if those don't work, James Gunn can't do it all. And that's all. That's what I'm saying. Man, let's see. Single Dad says, well, I just meant that Gunn has his hand in every cookie jar. Does it contribute to a negative effect on the overall DC? Would it be better if other creatives had their lanes? Well, again, Lanterns, which is the next project up. Yeah, Gunn has his hand in it, but that's because he's running the studio. He's a producer on it. He sees the dailies. He gives input. He's the Kevin Feige. I mean, he's helping usher in this DCU, guiding the ship, making sure it gets from point A to point B. Like that's what he has to do. He's the quote unquote Feige of the DCU. So I mean, is the Lanterns going to be a James Gunn film or project? Is it going to feel like Peacemaker? Not at all. It's going to feel like a Damon Lindelof project. It's going to feel like a Tom King, Damon Lindelof project. It's not going to feel like a James Gunn project. Whereas Supergirl, it's a Craig Gillespie film. It's written by Anna Aguirre. It's going to feel like that. Again, James Gunn, producer, helped guide the story. He's I'm sure he had his input, but he didn't write it. Clayface, same thing. So when you take a look at these projects, yes, he's there, but he's not directing. He's not editing. He's not writing. He's there. So that's why I say it's kind of important. We got to see how these projects do to see how well other creatives work within the DCU. Single Dad, that's true. Every project released this far has had Gunn's directing and writing. We're now entering a new era that other creatives showcasing their stuff. Yes, yeah. Happy 3D first project without Gunn as Lanterns. We have to see how that does. I'm excited for that, as am I. The Disney guy says, I can't wait for Clayface, to be honest. Same. I think that'll be a lot of fun. All right. Let me move over here. James Gunn, if Peacemaker's fate will be addressed in Man of Tomorrow. He says, no. But people should expect that the way that the military and Rick Flag and everybody are working together, and they've created probably a legal prison for metahumans on another dimension, is going to be part of the DCU stories going forward. And it's not just what is that? I don't even know what word that is. Oh, this is Arkham. It's a part of the stories. There's an escalating war, obviously, that's going on between the government and metahumans, and this is a part of it. So he talks about how impactful, important this whole aspect of salvation is. It kind of sucks that he's saying that Peacemaker's fate will not be part of Man of Tomorrow. Will he be shown in Man of Tomorrow, though? I don't know. I don't know if he will or not. Should be interesting to see if he will or not. But yeah, we got that for sure. And here's a thread that DCU Brief did on this whole thing. James Gunn says there won't be a Peacemaker season 3 for now. He suggests instead that the cliffhanger on Salvation leads into their wider DCU and other stories in which this will play out. Salvation and Checkmate were always part of Gunn's DCU plans. He says these plans, even before he became CEO of DC Studios, he pitched Salvation and Checkmate to Zaslav very early on. After that, the DC Studios writer's room helped him flesh it out further. James Gunn always knew Adebayo would found Checkmate. In the comics, Amanda Waller creates Checkmate and uses it to hunt metahumans. James Gunn knew since Peacemaker Season 1 he wanted Adebayo to create Checkmate and use it for good. The Salvation storyline has big DCU connections. Flag and Luthor's plans to imprison all metahumans has wide impacts. James says the Lanterns is very connected to all that, adding, it may not seem like it, but it is all very connected. The Salvation storyline is different to the comics. They're not adapting the Salvation run directly. Joker vs. Lex stuff is not included. The focus is on concept of imprisoning metahumans away from Earth. Creature Commando Season 2 will connect to the Salvation storyline too. Oh, it's in there. It's being written now, and we've got the first couple of episodes. So that's part of the Salvation. So that's part of the Salvation story. Yeah. Checkmate will show up in other parts of the DCU. You'll definitely see Checkmate carry through the DCU. They're part of what's going to happen. They present an alternative to governments and corporations like the Justice Gang, Luthor Corp, and Argus. Rick Flag is in trouble working with Lex. Gunn suggests that Rick is dumb. He thinks he can compete with Lex, and there's just no way he's going to be able to. It's not going to be great for him. He also talks about Waller, Gunn that is. He says, it's just been a rough road. We'll never greenlight something where scripts aren't working, and we just haven't had that yet with the Waller show. They almost brought in Vigilante's brother in season 2. He says his name is Gut Chase, and he's quite harsh on Adrian. He compares him to Peacemaker, but without the heart and goodness Peacemaker has hiding underneath. James knows how Earth X Keith could return, but isn't sure if it'll happen. He says, I have plans for Keith, but I just haven't figured out exactly how it's going to work. So I have to make sure I can do it. The Salvation storyline is more planned and will happen first. James Gunn knows which DCU projects he's directing next. It's part of the plan for the DCU. There's one big story. It involves Salvation, Rick Flag, and Lex and Superman. So those movies I'm going to be directing. Gunn wants balance in universe connections with making projects friendly to new viewers. You can watch anything by itself. I'm not expecting people to go into Man of Tomorrow and know what Salvation is. You'll find out anything you need to know about it in the movie. So that's a little bit of what he had to say the other day. The one that I thought was very, very interesting is this one here. He says which DC projects he's directing. It's part of the plan for the DCU. There's one big story. It involves Salvation, Rick Flag, Lex, and Superman. So those movies I'm going to be directing. That is very interesting to me because he says those movies. So we know that he directed Superman and some of the Peacemaker, but the next one is Man of Tomorrow. Does he have an idea for the follow-up to Man of Tomorrow? That is what I think is interesting. My guess, I wouldn't put it past James Gunn because, well, it is James Gunn and he writes really, really fast. I bet you he has an outline of some sort for what happens after Man of Tomorrow. I just have that feeling. I have a feeling he's got an outline for the next film or the next, story that happens after Man of Tomorrow at this point. I don't know. I feel like this Superman saga that he's doing is his baby. And I think that he just wants to usher in the DCU through this this Superman saga. And he wants to get through that. And everybody else, any of the other characters he'll bring in, he'll let the other creatives usher them in. But he's working on that directly. And I think that's what he means. I think that those movies, that's what he's talking about. That's what I really think he means. But this is all really interesting. I encourage you guys to go check out this Twitter thread or this X thread here. A lot of interesting information that you can check out right there. Some other information that was really interesting. I don't know how accurate or true it is, but apparently he tried or discussed, I won't say tried, but discussed having a cameo from Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool in the finale where they open up a door and they see him there. That was a possibility. And he said he talked to Ryan Reynolds about it. I want to point something out about that. If true, do we remember in Deadpool and Wolverine, for instance? Here it is. I got it right here. Do we remember in Deadpool and Wolverine, there's a scene where Deadpool walks up to a Wolverine variant that happened to be played by Henry Cavill. And he goes, you should come with me. I treat you way better than the shit fucks down the street. And you remember when everybody was like, oh, look, he's making fun of James Gunn for that. He's making fun of James Gunn for that. They're picking on James. And I said it had nothing to do with James Gunn. So here's the quote. This says, James Gunn says that Deadpool almost made an appearance in the finale. Yeah, I wanted them to open a door and see Deadpool in a room. And I talked to Ryan Reynolds about it. But I think we would have had to go through some pretty big hoops to do that. Ryan wanted to do it. That's all anyone's going to talk about now is Deadpool. I should never have said it. So he actually talked to Ryan Reynolds about it, which means he and Ryan Reynolds have a relationship. They talk. Do you really think that Ryan Reynolds would say the shit fucks down the street regarding somebody that he's friendly with, that he knows, that he's willing to actually do a potential cameo for down the line? No. That whole thing that all these gun haters and DCU haters were trying to put a feather in their cap for is like, see, look, they're making fun of James Gunn. No, it was never about that. It was about the old regime. As I said before, just another loss for the Snyder cult, the Snyder Bros. That's all I want to say about that. Just ridiculous. Just ridiculous. All right, guys. Yeah. Anything else you guys have to say? Anything? What do you got? Let's see. Disney guy says hopefully Creature Commandos and Peacemaker Season 2 gets Blu-ray release. That would be nice. Happy 3D model. I'm interested. Will he still direct Creature Commandos? I don't know. We'll see. He's pretty busy right now. Chris, nope. I think people were open to Cavill playing Marvel characters. Yeah, for sure. Well, this was a fun episode, guys. Again, sorry that it was so late. I didn't get it on Friday or yesterday like I promised, but I got it today. Remember Purple Guy? I will post it in the community in a little bit here. Purple Guy. So you can reach out to me and we can get you your code. But yeah, I think that is about it for the show today, guys. I will be back tomorrow with Free Talk Podcast. Remember, Mondays, I will be doing that. So anyways, everyone, thank you so much for watching. This was a fun show. Thank you for commenting. Let me know your thoughts on Peacemaker Season 2. Let me know your thoughts about the Cosmic Book News stuff. Those shit fucks down the street, I'll call them. I had to, right? I had to say it. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about all the stuff we talked about today. And with all that said, guys, I will catch you all later.